Oh, welcome to the Sharpe Way show. So happy to have you with me today at a special time. Usually 7 p.m., I know, but today we are at 6 p.m., a little bit past 6 p.m. on the East Coast. I got stuff to do, people. I'm busy Friday night because I'm super cool doing cool stuff. That's not true. I'm too old for that. But anyway, it sounded nice to say. The reality is we are a little bit past 6 p.m. and I have a very interesting show for you. You know that I very often interview candidates, and I have a candidate for president today. Yes, someone who is really trying to make big changes, but of course has been, as so many independent candidates have, shoved to the side, pushed, and having to get around all types of crazy things. He is a professor, former Green Party, now Independent Party, running for president of the United States, the man himself, Emanuel Pastreich. How are you, sir?
Oh, excellent. And I'm honored to be with you today.
I'm happy. If you want to follow what he's doing, you can head to his website if you want to. It is EmanuelPastreich24.org, and it is in both the Facebook page and also on the YouTube channel. So I have to ask you the crazy question. I have to. Absolutely. Why would you want to punish yourself and run for president, and why now?
Right. Well, it's not all fun and games, and it certainly isn't profitable. So in 2020, February 2020, when I saw the zombie apocalypse of Donald Trump and Joe Biden, I felt that there was no way either candidate could possibly become a legitimate president. And I was sadly not disappointed. And so I thought if I could run on a honest campaign to actually talk about things that people won't pay you to say and that are actually dangerous to say, that maybe I could somehow affect the discourse, the environment in American politics, to get back to a more honest politics about people, and actually to make so politics would not be a bad word anymore, that the process of bringing people together, formulating policy would not be selling one's soul. And so I made a declaration in 2020. Within 2 weeks, I was out of the country. I was in Korea, where I spent most of the time of the COVID regime. But I kept giving speeches.
Right.
And I posed as a president. And then in 2023, there's certain factions in the Green Party who were drawn to my platform.
I could see that. It makes sense.
So there was a tradition. I would say Cynthia McKinney, who ran in 2008. She has a group of people within the Green Party. We'd say it's a sort of the Green Libertarian intersection. We call it Green Liberty. And I was I think they decided, not me, but that several people there felt that I was the person best suited for that position. So why me? Well, I had certain advantages.
But hold on, you're not running on the Green Party anymore, are you? Isn't it Jill Stein now?
I'm not. So what happened was I quit after a month for various reasons, and then Cornell.
I remember Cornel West came in. Right.
He quit 1 week after I quit. So we were both out, and then there was nobody. And then the default candidate who's run repeatedly before was Jill Stein.
What's up with the Green Party? They're throwing everybody out. What are they doing? Come on, Green Party.
Well, it was really sad. I have a very I have a very how do I say it? Pessimistic view of the Green Party.
I see. Okay.
On the one hand, they went for the think left, live right, upper middle class, Upper West Side, wealthy bankers who have a little bit of identity politics and culture. They have a couple black friends, but that they are not really interested in serious politics. On the other hand,
I'm sometimes the black friend. I know.
Well,
I know. There we go.
I'm aware of that. Friends. So, and on the other hand, we also, I think, got a lot of these Department of Homeland Security, anti-disinformation operations with private intelligence firms. And so I think some of the people in what they were saying in Green Party sounded to me like operatives. They were trying to stir up trouble.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
This is my personal opinion, but based on some knowledge of how this is done.
It's funny you say this because Alexander is watching, and he says People, planet, and party over profit. That's the old Green Party's slogan. Is that true? I didn't actually know that. Do you know if that's accurate?
Well, so I'm not a Green Party person to start with, so I have no background in it, except for that they were willing to embrace me for, well, a group is still supports me within the Green Party, but it was not going to work because I didn't really buy into the identity politics. I didn't accept a lot of their agenda, and I also, there are a lot of third rail issues that the Green Party doesn't want to touch, like money. Like, where does money come from? Who makes it up?
So let me go down that road, because I know the thing that made me really think about you is you actually talk about something that most politicians do not talk about, or they kind of just, I guess, say it just to placate. And the idea of truth.
Right.
You actually talk about truth politics. It's like, wait a minute, politics and truth, they don't go together. Like that's not a thing, right? But you say it is.
Well, so that certainly it has the position taken by myself, and it's not me uniquely, but it definitely is different than politics as it's been practiced in recent years. And of course, much of politics back to the Roman Empire is a lot of not about truth, but it is possible. There are historical moments when truth politics is possible. We can see it in the past in the United States. It's not well rewarded, but you can have a transformative impact on society if you refuse essentially to accept anything. Just basically say, and I personally feel that the decay of systems, the decay of governance, the corruption within the United States, the merger of multinational corporations with the federal government, et cetera, the growth of the privatization of police and prisons, et cetera, that it's gotten to the stage that we really have no choice. The only way we're going to go forward is if someone draws a line in the sand that says, you all go to jail. I don't recognize a single member of the Congress because they're all involved in state crimes. So
let me walk down that road. I mean, this is something, again, that I'm a libertarian.
I understand.
And we are often looked upon as being extreme. But my friend, you have taken us to task on some extreme stuff. I'm just telling you the truth. You have, right?
I'm following the Constitution. I mean, these actions are totally illegal. And of course, they go back. In some ways, it goes back to the Federal Reserve Act. Certainly from the Manhattan Project and the beginning of secret governance in the United States from 1943, the bombing of Dresden was really a turning point in that process. There's an old history, but there's a more recent one, and where we're seeing the metastasis of this cancer in the body politics.
Well, let me touch that, right? If I could, you just talked about decay, and I think the vast majority of people watching, listening, are going to be like, decay. Yep, I see it. Yep, I get it. Right? You're not going to have many people argue on that one. But you say truth is a way of repairing that. And that to me seems hard for people to grasp, right? Like, how do you make that happen? And you've said there are many crimes, but you focused on 3 crimes.
Correct.
And your answer, if I get it right, tell me if I'm wrong, is that the way we begin to have truth politics is by recognizing these 3 crimes. Did I get that right?
So it's like incest. I mean, as you know, in the case of incest, children are abused by their parents, and the abuse is so profound that many will go for decades refusing to even recognize that it happened, and sometimes even loving their parents, beyond to make up for that deep betrayal. And I think that's what truth politics is about. The 3 crimes, the state crimes that you mentioned, and others are so profound that the psychological response is denial and the desire to create this limited hangout, acceptable space in which me and my neighbors are okay, even as the entire country is increasingly poisoned. But once the poison is in you, the rot starts, the cancer spreads. It requires surgery.
I did say that you were extreme, and you did not disappoint, my friend. In fact, Pinkerbell said, that's not a sentence that comes up very often as a metaphor. True, Pinkerbell. Well done. See, I didn't disappoint. I was right. There we go. All right. So let's walk down. But before we do that, if you are watching right now, this is to my audience. If you're watching right now, do me a favor, click the button that is like. Click the like button. You are not going to hear the U.S. government linked like incest in every other show. So like it and click it now. Please do that. If you're watching on Twitter, please retweet this. That's important to retweet it so people can see this, or X, repost it. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can always super chat me if you want to get your chat to the front if you want to. And please, if you want to hear what he's talking about, check out what he's doing on his website. You can check him out. He's got videos there, books there, all types of things. Head over to Emanuel Pastreich at 24.org. The links are in descriptions on Facebook and YouTube.
Well, all right. A shout out to all our friends at Homeland Security also to say you have nothing to lose but your chains.
Ooh, there we go. I like that. There we go. I like that. So please go down the 3 crimes. There are three crimes. Tell me the 3.
Well, there are many others, but there's 3 central ones. The first is the 9/11 incident. Now, of course, since much of it is classified, we don't know all the details, but the basic parameters of it are pretty clear. That we have a group of corrupt elements in military and intelligence in the United States, in Israel, in Great Britain, and in Saudi Arabia, and others who conspired to put together this false flag operation for the purpose of starting an unending war, which resulted in enormous profits and destroyed our whole system, and also setting up illegal secret governance in the United States on a scale which is unprecedented. So let me
ask 2 questions on this to make sure we're clear.
Please.
Are you saying that the event was purpose or the event was known and then used? I've heard both sides of this. It was planned on purpose, the other it was used. Which one was it?
Oh, there's no doubt that this was it was planned in advance, and there were multiple. Of course, all the plans and tossed around at DARPA are classified, so we don't. It was one of many plans, and it seems to have had a history of maybe 20 or 30 years. But why it was picked at that particular moment, I think is probably, I don't know. I don't claim to know everything, but I know a little bit. Probably there was a lot of resistance to the Bush administration after they came to power, seized power basically in February of 2001. And the resistance within military intelligence, government, and elsewhere reached a high point at which the Bush people realized if they didn't do something, they were going to be in jail. And so they went to this next stage, which was to sort of raise things to the next level. And that was what this false flag was really about. But it wasn't just the Bush people. It was the global finance. I mean, we could have a whole show on this.
So which is the worst crime? Is the crime the actual one that the event itself, or is the crime worse, the aftermath of it, for that event? Are they all one, or are they 2 separate?
So I mean, you're asking me a hard question there, because I don't want to show that I'm indifferent to the sufferings of the people who were killed at the moment.
No, I'll back off. No worries.
But on the larger scale, obviously what happened afterwards is what concerns us, because we have secret governance. Essentially, the United States, large parts of the government are run in secret. And so whether it's the Department of Treasury or Department of Education now, or Department of what else? Energy,
Homeland Security, all of them.
They put out all these rules that are not voted on by Congress and that are classified. They're not disclosed. If they're not classified, they're subject to a non-disclosure agreement. So essentially, your government secret. So you see all these guys on TV in Congress.
This to me, my friend, I got to tell you, this to me is one of the biggest pieces, because how do you get truth if you can't get transparency, right? How do you do that?
Well, so Frederick Douglass, in his famous speech about the rebellion against the slave rebellions in the Caribbean, he said, power never concedes anything without a demand. And a very, very powerful speech, and I highly recommend it. But the first thing is you make the demand. So my concern should not be, can I get on the ballot? Can I raise money from billionaires? Can I get on TV or whatever? Say what you need to get on CNN, whatever. Forget all that. first make the stand to say that we don't accept any of this, and that has power in itself. And this is along the, if we take it on the Civil War, John Brown, and on the
hold on, we're going way out. I don't want to go that far out. Let's bring it back.
I didn't mean to
let me go back. No worries. Let's keep going. First off, I got to get a quick super chat. I think it's pronounced Sip Sauce. I think. Thank you for the 499. Larry, I have a few Green Party candidates. Can you interview? How can I set this up? Yes, please. Twitter is the best way to get me. Twitter me afterwards. Me or my team will pick it up. We'll make some happen in the future. 100%. I love having candidates on. We'll do a couple later on. Just Twitter me. So yes, that's how that works. But I do want to now go to the second crime. That's the first. We got the 9/11 one down. What's the second crime?
So the second crime is specifically quantitative easing, COVID relief, and other market stimulus, in which basically the administration, both Trump and goes from Obama on, although you can find traces of this going even further back. Well, let's say from Obama on, said, let's print up trillions and trillions of dollars and feed them to private equity, private multinational banks, et cetera, as economic stimulus. We're not
really sure. You are speaking libertarian language right now, my friend. You are speaking it. Keep going. So
every time you print out money like that, you're stealing from the people, or I like to call it counterfeiting, which is, by the way, a crime. It's a federal crime to counterfeit money. And I have made this statement, it's on my website, that I say we should seize the assets of all those people who received the money from quantitative easing and from COVID relief because they were engaged in acts of counterfeiting. So that and we don't even know how much money was taken because the classified secret, top secret SCI has been extended into the Treasury over the last 15 years, so that many documents, internal documents in Federal Reserve and Treasury regarding where the money goes, which banks get how much, is classified. It can't be released easily to the public.
Wow. Okay, I agree 100%. I always thought that at one point you can't just keep printing money. You got to stop at one point, right? But maybe I'm wrong. You just keep going until it all runs out.
Well, you can keep printing money, but of course your citizens their money's going to be worth less and less. And this is very, very offensive to me because we have all these so-called intellectuals and public figures who are telling people, well, interest rates or, this sort of funny pie in the sky stuff about why we have inflation. And I'm going to fix inflation with some sort of magic. But when the basic issue of inflation, as Charles Calderon wrote back in 1934, money is no mystery, right? You print up a lot of it and the value goes down. And that's basically theft.
Wow. Okay. So that's two. I get it. Give me the third crime.
So the third is the COVID-19 operation, which I would say is a military intelligence, healthcare, information, media operation to create this false pandemic, make it seem real with local attacks with bioweapons to kill a few people, and then to promote both lockdowns, which are martial law under another name, and also...
I like that. Hold on, I'm going to say it again. Lockdowns are martial law under another name. I am so stealing that and giving you no credit. I'm just going to act I said it.
It's yours. It's yours. Go with it. So, and then finally, the vaccine regime. So the vaccine regime came out of a series of classified papers in the 1990s in DARPA about the three sort of the frontier, right? So the one was information, the second was bio, and the third was nano. And so the vaccine started with bio, using these biological agents essentially to weaken people's immune system and do other terrible things to their body, but also slowly introduce nanotechnology, nanorobots, et cetera, which, by the way, is not limited to vaccines. They're now being introduced all over. And some of the largest budgets in DARPA and around the world, this is true in Russia, China, elsewhere, is for nanotechnology, which I think is maybe even more dangerous than anything else.
Wow. Okay, those are three big crimes, and I'm like on board. Like this is great. This is stuff I've heard before, and I gotta tell you the truth here. What I feel when I hear this, I feel like this is so big. How does one guy running for president even make an attempt at repairing or fixing or changing or, just starting the process? How does this happen? Like, how are we too far gone? Like, is the war already over?
Right. Well, I mentioned John Brown, and I would say in that same, I put Jesus in the same category, right? Jesus stood up against the rotten Roman Empire. We know he didn't get elected president, but you could say, if you look at what happened after Jesus, that he had profound influence on the course of history in a different direction. And Jesus was not alone. There was a whole group of these people who opposed the Roman Empire. In the case of John Brown, or the African-American equivalent would be Abraham Galloway, John Brown said in his provisional government at Harper's Ferry, he said, the Constitution makes us all citizens. If people are engaging in this slavery institutions, it's not culture. It's not a peculiar institution. It's an act of war against the citizens of the United States, period. And so John Brown and his group, motley group of people who were willing to follow him on this impossible effort, they were captured. Some of them were killed and he was executed. But it changed the whole dialogue in the United States, because in 1850s, like right now, they're very similar.
Okay, hold on. So what you're saying then is the goal here is to change the conversation into focusing on the truth politics.
Correct.
That's really the key, that we can make that happen. That's what makes things begin to change. That's what gets rid of that decay, and we begin to rebuild. It
has to start with me, and it's not about me being president. But when John Brown at Harper's Ferry said we have a provisional government, he was postulating a real government around John Brown and his followers, following the Constitution. And it's similar also to the Warsaw Uprising, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, in which a tiny number of people stood up against essentially fascist Europe the whole time at that period, 1943. And they fought it out for 6 days. They were all killed, basically. And it was a failure, but it was a success, because many resistance groups from 1943 on in Eastern Europe started to fight back because they saw this small group of people. And that was the same for John Brown.
It's the Alamo.
It's like, well, in a way, I don't want to, it's a more problematic analogy, but there is a parallel.
Yes, it is. Yes. I was trying to match you. You went to incest. I was trying to get something in there. I was trying to match with you, man.
I felt
you're a tough act to follow. I'm trying to get in there somehow. So let me grab some more comments. I got a bunch of comments popping up here. If I grab a couple of them,
I'd be happy to respond.
Sam says the funny money has been a big problem. He is right. You hit a nerve when it came to the fiat currency, because David asked the next question. He says, any thoughts on getting rid of fiat currency altogether so that future corrupt governments in the future can't just print money? Is there a way of fixing this permanently to where there's no fiat cash? Maybe going back to gold or something or whatever?
So if you're interested in this, I have a series of 5 lectures, which are all on global research on that theme. It's called Money is No Mystery. And the final is a proposal for a revolutionary dollar. And essentially saying that we as citizens at the local level create our own barter economy, which becomes the basis for establishing value for our own currency, which we then from the bottom up build up. I'm not so fond of just saying go to the gold standard, for the simple reason that gold is owned by billionaires. So if we say it's the gold standard, we don't own the gold. So the question is, how is value determined in our society? And this is, in some degree, it's a philosophical question. And I personally think that it was maybe a mistake in the Constitution that it wasn't addressed more specifically, more explicitly. But the Constitution makes it pretty clear that what we're doing now is illegal. Unconstitutional.
Okay, that's wow. That's interesting.
The construction, the production of money, the process by which value is assigned to money is not sufficiently defined in the Constitution. Sadly.
So you're saying we could actually create basically a bottom-up dollar or bottom-up value that would be what would support a more nationalized currency based
Correct.
upon local. Huh.
So this is a proposal. I'm not saying it's the answer, but when I spent a lot of time thinking about this, I thought, say you and I, the two of us, we say, I'll give you 3 pounds of carrots and you'll mow my lawn. And so we have a barter, and we'll create a value for that in a local currency for ourselves. And that will be based upon a set of criteria for value in our community. And so that would allow us independently in our community to create a currency which is valid and has real value, and then build up from that. That would be a proposal, but I'm totally open to other proposals, and I'm proud to say that I'm not an economist. I never was corrupted by it, by that whole system. It makes me a little bit more radical because I question the assumptions like growth and production as a way of defining the health of the economy.
There we go. Okay. So speaking of that, I want to go to the next piece if I could. You have said something which I think hurts and motivates libertarians. Most people think that libertarians like big corporations because we tend to be pro-privatization. We tend to be pro-private market, markets and private property. Mm-hmm. That's true. But every libertarian I know can't stand big multinational companies. We like entrepreneurs, like guys who started the local diner. Like we love that type of free market. We like when you said local people trading carrots from mowing the lawn, you just made a whole bunch of libertarians happy. Like we like that concept, and we see that as a free market. So when we hear multinational banks and corporations, we don't like it either. But you said something that's very specific, which I've never heard said before. You said, and I may mess up the phrase, you'll correct me, that multinational corporations and multinational banks are basically a form of government, but a worse form of government because they're more opaque.
That's correct. They do not operate according to any constitutional restrictions, and they are able to do, the big problem we have in the United States is the multinational corporations have names like Apple or Kellogg's or whatever, but they're actually not American, right? They're incorporated outside the United States. Their stock is held through trusts and funds offshore by people we don't even know. Many of them hostile to the Americans, and they claim to be American, but they're not American in any real sense of the word. So what I was concerned about, let's put this. I'm sympathetic to. My whole point in my run in the Green Party was to bring together libertarians and Greens. That's why we called it Green Liberty Caucus. Mm-hmm. That was the point. But we did run into a problem with people on that issue, right? The question is, are multinational corporations, big corporations, I'm not talking about mom and pop here, are they an alternative to government? And my position would be, or I'd say our position would be, the alternative to government is the citizens and the organized citizens at the local level. It is not multinational corporations, and it's not, private investment firms or private equity or whatever. And so there has been a group, I don't want to call them, it's not my field of expertise, but there are people who I feel unfairly sneak in the multinational corporation or private banks as a way, as sort of like an alternative to the government.
Right. Yes. Well, I think you find people who are just so frustrated with how big government has screwed things up. They're at a point where they just go, I'll take anything. I just not this. This isn't working. So I'll take anything.
Well, I feel that with people who are very, strong supporters of Donald Trump. And I understand why they support Donald Trump, because the Biden administration, which is run by a bunch of multinational consulting firms, basically everyone making decisions in the Biden administration knows that when they finish their 4 years, they're going to go back to their consulting firm and make a fortune off of what they did. And that's the bottom line for them. I mean, Austin is the classic example, but well, I mean, I won't name any more names, but they're basically all of them work in that way. And so Trump, I mean, he's a little bit crazy. I don't like his style and clothes that much, but he offers at least some alternative to what the accepted norm is. And so I can fully understand why people would want to support him over the Biden people. However, I would be very, very wary, not about Donald Trump as a person. I think he's probably okay. I enjoy having a beer with him myself. But the group that supported him, whether it's Adelson and Mercer and all these billionaires in the background, the whole, the sort of IT, hedge fund, investment bank, London, Tel Aviv, New York group. I'm very skeptical about that group, and I don't think that their intentions are more noble.
But this part confuses me. I've heard you say two separate things, and they seem opposite to me, but maybe they're not. Okay. One of them was you want more bottom up, more local, and I've also heard you say you kind of want a more powerful government, not less powerful, but you want it to be more ethical. I don't know how those two things match. Help me to square that circle.
Well, so I think the best way to approach this is to be honest with the American people and say, this is going to be hard. There's no easy solution to it. And we run serious risks. We need to be organized to resist basically the takeover of our country by multinational corporations, banks, and the billionaires behind them through trusts and funds. On the other hand, how are you going to do that? I mean, the old line is, yeah, you and what army? But as we know from both the case of Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt, the process of actually getting into a conflict causes all sorts of problems. I mean, Lincoln's initial moves were supportive for some in the abolitionist movement, but he was linked up with the Vanderbilts, soon, who were pushing trains and I mean all sorts of stuff that had nothing to do with slavery or a free economy. And some people have argued that the net effect in terms of independence of farmers and local economies was negative after the Civil War. I mean, it was better for African Americans as a whole, but that it had a negative effect. In the case of Roosevelt, Roosevelt started out following up on the move against fascism, the fight to support the Spanish Republic against the fascists, which was a very legitimate, I think, effort. However, by the end of the war, it was really about trying to get the mantle, the ring, like in the Lord of the Rings, of the British Empire, to get control of the Fiat, the currency, global currency, control trade routes, et cetera, and banks, et cetera. And so that.
So then why do I want a more stronger government then? Don't I want a weaker government then?
Well, so the answer would be you want a weaker government, but do you really think these guys are going to disappear from a weaker government?
No.
It's a paradox. I mean, I'm not giving you an answer. I'm telling you, this is the problem we're faced with. These guys are organized. And they're ruthless. They want us dead or as slaves. So we have to resist them. It's like a sort of a Spartacus type scenario. However, if we organize ourselves into an equally ruthless monster, obviously we're going to become like Batman, right? You become your enemy. So I think about this all the time. And
well, you said basically, and I think most people would agree with you, that there's about 100 families or so, something like that, who basically control everything.
Right, basically.
So how do we fight these 100? Oh, do we not? Is this, and I guess my point is, I like what you're saying, the concept of us organizing locally, love it. The idea of getting rid of the Fed, love it. Absolutely, yes. Right. And you guys said things like, David brings this up because I know you've actually mentioned this before. If we send Congress to prison, they'll go away. But you can't arrest all of them, can you? Or is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't totally rule that one out. So
okay, there we go.
So I mean, in a way, it's a practical, Larry. I mean, strategy. So I'm not going to become president by getting on the ballot, right? I'm blocked out of the media. In fact, people may not know this, but I've been blocked out of the country. I've been basically living in Korea and Japan for the last more than 4 years. I come through, but I can't actually live here. Just like Cynthia McKinley, who's also been in Bangladesh, outside, no longer in the country. So just give you some idea of what happens when you are engaged in serious politics. However, if we get to the position where we say all of these guys are guilty of state crimes, they're all guilty of felonies, then suddenly there's a possibility, right? We can start to say we're going to put together a provisional government, return to the Constitution, and clean house. Get rid of all these people who work for the super rich, for multinational banks, and who have been preying on us, destroyed our Constitution. And it's in order to get to that point, I think we really have to sort of there's a profound change. So if you have these Bernie Sanders types who say something like, "If you don't vote for me, we're going to lose our democracy."
Right.
We call this bullshit. The technical term.
Technical term. Agreed.
We lost our democracy a long time ago. We're living in an authoritarian. I mean, there are little oases you find out there, and all over actually, where it's sort of like the Free State of Jones. I don't know if you saw that movie, but like the Free State of Jones. So there are these oases where the rule of law still exists in the United States. But for the most part, we have to first. The title of my book is the bitter tonic known as truth. We have to drink the bitter.
Hold on. You just said something. This is like exactly the opposite of what people say. You said there is an oasis that's away from us, kind of, and that's where there's the rule of law.
So across the country, there are local communities which are like the Free State of Jones, where they actually do have the rule of law and things function. And they're not insignificant. However, the country as a whole and the federal government is totalitarian in nature. There's nothing democratic about it. It's democratic only in the sense that, say, the Republican Party gets more money from arms manufacturers, real estate speculators, the petroleum industry, and the Democrats get more from private finance, IT, Hollywood, Google, and a little bit of Israeli private intelligence. So they are democratic and they represent different interests, but the interests are not us.
Got it. Right. We're the ones not in. Got it. Okay. Well, let me ask you, do you feel comfortable? Alexander asked, why can't Emanuel live in the U.S.? Do you feel comfortable talking about that?
My story, I think I would say for another occasion if you're interested. But I have a book describing it called Wrestling with Shadows.
So how do we get that book? By going to your website? Is that how we do it?
You can. You just do a search on Amazon on Google. You'll find it.
Okay.
But the short answer would be I couldn't find employment in any form in the United States after January of 2020. Whether that was related to the positions that I took on the COVID-19 operation, I can't prove anything.
No, I'm sure that's true. I will say that one for you. I'm sure that's true because I saw it happen to so many people, across this country.
Right.
Yes. So, I have no doubt.
So Cynthia McKinney, who's also a truth politics candidate myself, is also outside of the United States. This is a reality, but it doesn't mean that I can't play a meaningful role in this. But I think that this American citizen has to consider this real possibility that the United States corrupt system will not permit real politicians, independent-minded politicians, to operate in this country.
Wow. Well, you got Josh on board. He says, end the wars, end the Fed, end the empire.
I would totally agree with that.
There we go. He's on board. Guys, if you're watching and you're liking this, and some of you clearly are, then click the button that is like. Why have you not clicked that button yet? Click it. It does matter. Look, you know what we're talking about. This is getting demonetized. Like you're aware of that, right? This is already demonetized, guys. So hook me up. It's already demonetized. You know that it's going to be banned. You know that already. So please click the like button. It helps tremendously. If you're on Twitter, please retweet it. Just retweet it now before it gets banned. You know it's going to. If you want to hook me up yourself, please, you can do one of two things. Super chat me on YouTube, or if you want to, you can actually become a member. Click that join button, become a member, $49 per month. Keeps me going, doing more and more of this. Every membership matters. Every little bit matters. I am happily a rent seeker when it comes to that. Happily. No worries. I'm happily do it. All good. But no matter what, do me a favor. Follow what Emanuel is doing here. Head over to his website, Emanuel Pastreich 24.org. So is there something I have missed? Something that we should be bringing up that I did, that we should have talked about that I didn't do?
No, I mean, I would just maybe just say in terms of what's happening today. I mean, the campaigns against Donald Trump and now against Kennedy show that there's a process that's been launched of show trials.
Yes.
In the case of Donald Trump, we had, I mean, and this is not, I mean, I don't like Trump's garish clothes. I don't like the decor in his houses. I don't agree with things he did. Some of them are illegal, but this is totally irrelevant.
No, I agree. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, but it doesn't mean this isn't a show trial. It's those two things can both be true.
These show trials.
Correct.
And so they allowed it on the classified documents, which is a bunch of shit. I mean, basically none of this stuff should have been classified. And then we have this Stormy Daniels telling her steamy, entertainment, I mean,
it is entertaining. It is that.
It wasn't. I mean, what can you say? And now
was entertaining.
Kennedy has a parasite in his brain.
Right.
You couldn't make this stuff up.
Right.
And it couldn't be better. So it really is. And I think that naively, people like Obama are thinking, hey, they're never going to come for me. Believe me, they're going to come for you.
Yes.
That would be my words to all you other politicians out there who think you outsmarted this system, is that it's going to be cannibalistic. It's going to eat itself, and it's going to eat you guys. I certainly stand with Donald Trump against this. I stand with Kennedy against this sort of effort. And basically, this is what, if you let things go, if you say, well, 9/11, it's not my problem. Federal Reserve, hey, well, let some experts take care of that. COVID-19, well, I never noticed, right? Or what's COVID-19? That this is going to have, as Rudolf Steiner, the German philosopher and educator, said, it's the karma of untruthfulness. If you're untruthful, it has a karmic implication, and that plays out. I don't believe that humans are going to be truthful, that politics can always be clean. I mean, I'm not naive about the way the world really works, but we should do our best in this situation, because in this situation, it doesn't help. The only real solution is for us to start to say, this is what the United States is. Forget all these fantasy things we're being fed over the social media. This is what the United States is. This is where we really are today. And let's, step by step, stone by stone, rebuild it.
There we go. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, then do me a favor, click the like button, and also check him out at Emanuel Pastreich 24.org. I will not be on tomorrow or Sunday, but I will be on Monday, and my radio show again on Tuesday. So I'll be back again. Have a great weekend. I will see all of you very soon.